Hey, what's up YouTube? Today's video, I'm going to do the first part of the Lightning Strike Berserker guide. I wanted to make a pretty detailed guide, so I'm probably just going to split it up, right? And I wanted to get the leveling out really fast because I know a lot of people wanted to try to practice the leveling. And with this guide, I guarantee you, you can become like Tai Killer or I'm Exile. You'll be speeding through the campaign. Now, a disclaimer, you do have to use Spectral Helix. I know some people hate Spectral Helix, right? But you know what's worse than Spectral Helix? Spending 10 hours on the campaign because you can't swallow your pride. Just follow the guide and you'll be fine and you'll level faster than ever. I'm pretty sure if you guys practice, you can get this down to 3 hours, 30 minutes or 4 hours for the campaign. I did do a full run on stream yesterday, so if you want, you can check out the VODs and you can see a full leveling run. And I used this exact same setup, right? So it's going to be really good. Make sure to follow the guide. I spent a lot of time trying it out, and I do believe this is the best way to level up Lightning Strike. So let's get started and see the pros and cons of this leveling. As always, people love pros and cons, right? There's always a good side to life. There's always a bad side to life. And in leveling in PoE, usually it's all bad, right? Wrong. There's good stuff in leveling too in PoE. It's fun leveling in PoE. If you just keep telling yourself it's fun leveling in PoE, it'll become more fun. So, pros. One of the fastest leveling builds. It's capable of 3 hours, 30 minutes roughly with a great player. Now, I'm not a great player. You're not a great player. None of us watching a YouTube video is a great player. So, we'll probably be around like 4 hours or so. Now, this build also has great burst on bosses with Berserk. And this just happens like you get your War Cry. You use General's Cry. You get Rage. You press Berserk. You'll instantly delete the bosses. Spectral Helix is just busted. It has one of the highest base damages in the game. And you do not need to spend any excess regrets to swap to the Claw version. We are going to be leveling with two-handed Spectral Helix for a very long time. And by very long time, I mean the whole campaign. And Rage is fun. Rage is what gives you attack speed. It gives you movement speed. And it gives you attack damage. So it's very good. And it makes leveling a lot more enjoyable because you can leap slam around super fast. Now for the cons, you have to play Spectral Helix. And this is a very big con for a lot of people. But like I said before, you know what's a bigger con? Spending 10 hours leveling because you don't want to play Spectral Helix. Now Spectral Helix also has a pay-to-win MTX. And this is something that I can't really deny any longer. If you ever play Spectral Helix, you cannot really see the projectiles until you get the MTX. And the MTX does make the skill feel a lot better. And that's something I just can't deny. And another con is you cannot play Lightning Strike until maps. You could technically play Lightning Strike at like Act 7, Act 8. But I do think it's easier to just finish the campaign with Spectral Helix and then swap once you're ready fully. And then also another con is you have to use all the regrets from the campaign. So for all the skill point quests and the regrets you get, you will be consuming it and using it to fix your tree. And the last con is this is more of a Berserker con more than anything else. You have lots of buttons to press for optimal play. Now, this could be a pro for some people. Maybe some people have a bigger brain. They can use their brain. They know how to press the buttons, and it's more enjoyable, right? So you have to press War Banner on bosses. You have to put down your totems. You have to use General's Cry. You also have to use Berserk. And this is for optimum damage. And this is what actually allows you to instantly kill the bosses. You do not need to do any of this though. You do not need a min-max War Banner. You don't even need to min-max the totem, right? Actually, the totem you should probably do. Berserk you should also probably do. So, more involved playstyle than most leveling builds. But next, let's get into how to do the leveling. So, I kind of dummy-proofed this guy. So, this is a very beginner, noob-friendly guide. So, you can pretty much follow along if you're doing the leveling experience. And I'm going to go over what you need to do. So Act 1 through Act 10. Act 1, you want a Mule Scion for Splitting Steel and Onslaught. Now, a lot of people don't really like doing this, but Onslaught is very important. Marauders are too big too slow. Do not get Onslaught. After you Mew, you kill Hailrick, and then you turn to quest for the Quicksilver Flask, and then you buy Chance to Bleed, Ancestral Protector, War Banner, and Frostblink. Frostblink will be your de facto movement skill, but you can't really use Frostblink until you get this node over here, which is Dex and Int. Or you can buy an amulet, and the reason being is that Frostblink requires a certain amount of intelligence. Once you reach Lower Prism, make sure to take the Life Tap Gem reward. Life Tap Gem is going to be our 4th link for Spectral Helix later on. And the reason we like Life Tap so much is because Life Tap means you don't need to worry about mana. You can pre-cast the Spectral Helix without worrying about going right? So it's a pretty big deal. After you kill Brutus, you use Leap Slam and you buy Smoke Mine. At this point, you'll replace Frostblink with Smoke Mine, and you'll use Leap Slam. Leap Slam is a very good movement skill. It can traverse terrain, like ridges and stuff like that. It can also jump gaps, so that's pretty much all you need. You should also use Smoke Mine and pretty much just use this on cooldown to get that burst of movement speed. It makes it a lot faster. Once you get to Caverns, you buy Spectral Helix, and you can replace Splitting Steel with Spectral Helix. And at this point, you'll pretty much be a Spectral Helix Andy until the end of the campaign. Now, depending on what level you're doing Mervo at, you'll pretty much be going out through here, going up to get Wrecking Ball. And then you'll try to get the Axe Nodes. And the reason we want to get the Axe Nodes early is because you get 40% increased Onslaught effect. So your skill links are pretty much looking like Splitting Steel, Onslaught, Chance to Bleed. And if you have a 4 link by some miracle, you will use Life Tap. The auras and busts we'll be using is War Banner and Ancestral Protector. Now, something to note is that War Banner is very important for killing the bosses really fast. You will have like 50 stacks of the War Banner a lot of times when you reach the boss. When you pop the War Banner, you'll do a tremendous amount of damage, and a lot of times you'll kill the boss pretty much instantly, right? And then movement skill, Frostblink replaced with Smoke Mine, and then also use Leap Slam. Very important. So next up, let's go to our favorite act, Act 2. So Act 2 is pretty straightforward. You do the Den for the Quicksilver Flask. And the reason we want to use the Quicksilver Flask is because it helps us craft a movement speed boost if we get unlucky of getting movement speed. And having 2 Quicksilver Flasks is just really good in general. After Chamber of Sins, you want to pick up Herald of Ash. And then you want to buy Herald of Purity and Blood Rage. And Blood Rage is super important. It gives us Frenzy charges. It also gives us a little bit of Leech. But make sure you have the gem sock, because like you don't need to run every single one of these things listed below. A lot of times you don't have the gem socket. You can drop War Banner, you can drop one of the auras, but you can pretty much guarantee to get it if you just look in the vendor and you try to craft on a base with 4 sockets or something like that. Your loot filter should also show a lot of items that have sockets. So sockets are kind of a priority for any build, and this is no different in this case. So after you kill Weaver, you want to pick up faster attacks. And the reason we want to use faster attacks is because we want to link it to Leap Slam. And I did a few leveling runs, and making sure you put faster attacks on Leap Slam is extremely important. And next up, we have the Two-Handed Mastery. So once you get this Axe Mastery of the Onslaught effect, you go over here, you get the Two-Handed Masteries. I take 40% damage to rares and uniques. And the reason behind this is that I do feel like a lot of the leveling speed that you gain is from having better single target damage, right? So at this point, you should be cruising through the game. Everything should be a breeze. Make sure to also do the weapon craft. I know not a lot of people know how to do that. But you take a 2-handed weapon, you take a rustic sash, and you take a blacksmith's whetstone. And the rarity of the rustic stack dictates how high the percent fizz roll actually is. So next up, we head to Act 3. So Act 3, after Crematorium, you want to pick up Vulnerability for the quest reward. Then you want to buy Anger and Determination and level an offhand. Now, the reason we want to do this is because we want to be using Anger and Determination after the campaign in order to trigger Trinity. So at this point, you're not going to be using Anger or Determination. If you're a mega like puss or super bitch, you can use Determination instead of Herald of Ash and Herald of Purity. It will pretty much make your character unkillable, but you do lose a good chunk of damage. And after you kill Gravicious, you buy General's Cry. You don't really want to use this. You want to set it aside. And the reason for General's Cry is for our first ascendancy, which I'll explain later on. And you can skip the library quests. So you can see at this point, you're pretty much using the pretty generic links, right? There's nothing really special about it. You're using Herald of Purity, Herald of Ash for your auras. And Vulnerability is a new thing that you want to add on. You want to make sure you're cursing the boss with Vulnerability. It makes them take a huge amount of extra damage. For Act 4 to 5 at this point, after Vols, you pick Berserk for your quest reward. And Berserk and General's Cryo will be very important after we do the lab. So we want to do the lab when you get first Crystal Vein Ascendancy point. And for the first Ascendancy, we get Warbringer. And you might be wondering what exactly is Warbringer. So let's bring this over here. So Warbringer is this node that grants us, let's see, War Cries grant 10 rage per 5 power if you have less than 25 rage. And the reason we want this is because we can use General's Cry. And the reason we use General's Cry is because it is the war cry with the least cooldown effect. I don't know how many times people ask me that question, but that's what happens. So right here, we will want to get this node right here. And then you get war cries have a minimum of 10 power. So this means that every time we war cry, even if there's no mobs nearby, we will receive 20 rage. And that is very, very important. So we take this Warcry Mastery over here to get Warcries have 10 minimum power. And then you use Berserk on bosses and whenever we are at full rage. So whenever you're at full rage and you're just running through the acts, you want to press Berserk. It gives you an insane amount of attack speed and an insane amount of move speed at the same time. And it'll feel extremely, extremely good. So you can see here, we pretty much only add in Berserk and General's Cry in order to take advantage of our first Ascendancy point. And this is very important. Make sure you get Warbringer. It is the best. It's also what we'll be using at the very end game. So by this point, you should be in Act 6. Act 6, you do Twilight Shroud to unlock Lily. And at this point, after unlocking Lily is where you want to buy a lot of the skill gems you'll be using later on in the campaign for the swap to Trinity claw build. Now, these are gems that you want to be leveling up in your offhand. So you want to buy Trinity, cast when damage taken Molten Shell, Multi-Strike, added cold damage, Flame Dash, Nightblade, Culling Strike, Poacher's Mark. And you want to mainly be leveling up Trinity, added cold damage, Multi-Strike, and Nightblade in the offhand along with your Anger and Determination. At this point, we'll have traveled a lot further, so we're going all the way over into the Ranger area, picking up some nice move speed and suppression, some life, projectile speed, projectile damage. This gives us some more move speed and attack speed. And we get these two life masteries over here, plus 50 life and 10% increased life. Now, our main skills are still mostly the same. What we do is we can add in cast when damage taken Molten Shell. You can do this if you feel like you're really struggling. But if you don't have the gem links, it doesn't matter too much at this point. Dying during the campaign is not the worst thing in the world. Ancestral Protector, you want to link to Culling Strike in order to get Coal on bosses. And now instead of Vulnerability, we'll be using Poacher's Mark. It lowers the enemy's physical damage reduction and also grants, I think, plus physical damage when you hit an enemy. So it's an extremely, extremely good aura mark for Spectral Helix. Now, there is something that may be made. This new tree isn't updated yet. You could potentially take the Mark Masteries over here, where my thing is highlighted. The Mark Masteries do generate you Frenzy charges on bosses, and the Mark node right here also grants you, I think, 10% increased damage, right? Marked enemies take 10% increased damage. So this could be something you can use later on, and you probably want to link Poacher's Mark to Mark on hit when in the actual new version of the game. The gem is not currently available yet, but that's probably what we'll do in the, in 3.17. But next up, let's go towards the end of the campaign. And this is Act 7 through 10. At this point, your links are pretty much settled. You don't really need to worry about anything. And this is why like Act 7 through 10 is so fast compared to Act like 1 through 6. At this point, you don't need to worry about it. You're pretty much all set up. You're ready to go. You did the hard work in the beginning. And now it's just the fun part. Well, I don't know how fun the campaign actually is, but it's kind of fun, right? Just running through the acts. It's probably not that fun. But basically, you want to swap Hero of Ash for Determination. Now the mobs are going to start hitting pretty hard, especially when you run like Act 9. And it's pretty dangerous. So you want to do Cruel Lab after finishing Act 7. The second Ascendancy point is Aspect of Carnage. And Aspect of Carnage is over here. And this is the generic 40% more damage, 10% increased damage taken. So because of the increased damage we're going to be taking, that's why we swapped over to Determination. And then we also want to get the Aura Mastery for the 15% reservation efficiency. This allows us to run Determination. It allows us to run Herald of Purity. And you could technically still run War Banner and maybe even Herald of Ash once you get the reservation efficiency. I do like to have a little bit of extra mana left over, so that's why I don't do that. Oh yeah, you can also run life tap on Leap Slam. I forgot about that. And it does help out a lot if you do run out of mana because you're leap slamming around too much and not killing anything. And the Mark Mastery you want to be getting is the Frenzy Charge on hit, the one I was talking about previously. And then you want to do Merciless Lab before Katava. The reason being is a lot of times you won't have max resist after killing Katava. So you want to make sure you do everything before the Katava. You can do all of the skill points before you do Katava. So for the third lab, the Merciless Lab, we want to be picking up Flawless Savagery. This node's pretty good. It's not exactly that crazy. It's pretty much just multi and crit chance. And it gives us some flat fizz for later on when we do Lightning Strike and converting over. But the reason we want to take Flawless Savagery is because we want to take Blitz Charges later on. And Blitz Charges is the key. And we don't want to waste the 10 regrets in order to respec. Because there could be some argument to be made to take Crave the Slaughter as the third ascendancy. But I just do Flawless Savagery. So next up, we want to have the post-campaign talk about what you should do after the campaign. So at this point, you must be tired of Spectral Helix, right? You're like, when can I swap off a Spectral Helix? Well, the answer is not yet. What we'll be doing to swap first is we're going to be doing Claw Trinity Helix. We want to respec to this new tree. Now, all these trees will be in this pop, so I'm going to have all of this stuff fixed up and ready to go. Act 1, Act 2, Act 3. And you also see like somewhat of a detailed note. Not really as detailed as what you'll see in this video, but basically use this to navigate if you don't want to look at the video and have it pulled up the whole time. But we're going to be swapping over to Claw Trinity. And we want to respec to this new tree. And what we pretty much do is we take away all of the two-handed nodes. And then we respec it into one-handed nodes. So you can see here, these two-handed nodes are gone. Two-handed nodes. The Axe Mastery is gone. And you should have exactly enough regrets to swap over the tree to Claw Trinity Helix. So we want to buy a high LA DPS Claw. You can set a search for this, or you can set a search for essences. You can do attack speed essence. You can do lightning damage essence. You can do fire damage essence. You can do cold damage essence. Pretty much any type of mod is fine. So you want to get, ideally, 2 LA damage rolls and attack speed roll, and you can craft on something else, whether it be pen, whether it be attack speed, whether it be crit chance. So at this point, you pretty much just want the bare minimum claw to get started. And you also want to get a shield. You can be a life, suppression, attack speed, or resist shield. Pretty much just any shield will work, right? You want just the bare minimum. So for the claw mastery that you want to be taking, you will be taking the 1% reservation, 1% life. You want to be taking this one here, 1% of attack damage leads as life and mana. And the reason we want to take this instead of elusive effect early on is because we want to drop our mana flask, and without mana leech, we'll be kind of screwed. So here we see that we are using Spectral Helix now, Trinity, added cold damage, Nightblade, and this is because we have a 4-link. And then our buffs, we have Ancestral Protector, Culling Strike, multiple totems, Vol Ancestral War Chief. So we kind of want to try to get Vol Ancestral War Chief early on. You might want to set up a live search for it. And then we have Assassin's Mark, Mark on hit, Blood Rage, Berserk, General's Cry. General's Cry will be on left click. And then cast 1 damage taken, Molten Shell. And then we have Anger, Determination, and Defiance Banner as our auras. If you do have any left over, you could maybe try to run Skitterbots or something like that, but I don't think you have the reservation efficiency at this time. And then for the movement skills, you have Whirling Blades, faster attacks. If you feel like you have no mana left over, you want to swap over and add in Life Tap. I'm not really sure if this is too many gems, so you have to make sure you might have to drop something. So that's the problem with Assassin's Mark, Mark on hit, is that you end up not having enough gem links because this is 2 extra sockets that we never had before. But now let's go over the $1,000,000 question, which is how can I swap over to Vol Lightning Strike or Lightning Strike? So this is a quick little look at the Ascendancy and Pantheon. So like I said, Warbringer, Aspect of Carnage, Flawless Savagery, and then Blitz Charges when you get Uber Lab. And Pantheons is the stun immunity Pantheon. It also gives you cannot be frozen later on and 50% reduced effective chill. This is 60% reduced effective shock. And if you craft reduced effective shock on your gloves or rings, you can get shock immunity, which is really important for not dying. So now when to swap to Lightning Strike. So you must have a pretty good Elemental Claw and you kind of want a higher attack speed. So probably like 15-20% attack speed. Playing with a low attack speed Claw of Lightning Strike is going to feel very, very bad. And you want to make sure to buy Vol Lightning Strike. Vol Lightning Strike is all of your single target. You are going to need Vault Lightning Strike in order to deal damage, right? So very, very important. You have to have Vault Lightning Strike in order to swap to playing Lightning Strike. You also must have a 5 link to fit in multi-strike. I did try out a lot of testing on stream, and without multi-strike, it feels awful to play. I know a lot of raiders don't run multi-strike. I have no idea how they actually play the skill early on. It feels completely dog shit, to say the least. And you must take Tribal Fury for strike additional nearby enemies. And you can see here, strike skills target 1 additional nearby enemies. So what this means is that your clear will be a lot better because every time you attack, you'll attack 1 additional time. So if there's another mob nearby, you'll pretty much be doing double damage. And you also want to take Fortified nodes on the tree for free Fortify. So you can see here, when you swap over to Lightning Strike, you will want to take these nodes over here for the Fortify effect. And this is pretty important because this allows you to pretty much get 20% damage reduction. So you can see here, the links, when you swap over to Lightning Strike, everything else is pretty much the same, except now you have Vault Lightning Strike, Multi-Strike, added cold damage, Nightblade, Trinity, instead of using Spectral Helix. Now we want to see what exactly do we want to focus on for upgrades, because we want to try to transition the build as much as possible. And these are the important items to prioritize. The Interrogation, Secrets of Suffering. Now, this item is generally one of the biggest damage increases. It gives you pretty much 50% crit total. I think in my estimates, you're probably around like 50 to 60% crit with Diamond Flask up and Power Charges, which is not really that consistent on bosses. So Interrogation is something you want to buy straight away. It will give you 100% crit. It will also give you like 30% pen, which is huge since we only have Trinity for pen. And next, we also want to use Red Blade Banner, and this gives us max rage every time you Warcry and also saves us 4 points because we can respec out of these 4 points. So the main problem with Red Blade Banner is that Lighthouse is not the map anymore on the Atlas, so you can only get Red Blade Banner for Warbands boxes. So we're not really sure how much the Red Blade Banner will actually cost. And next up, we want a 30% effect Berserk Helm. Since we'll have pretty high Berserk uptime for the most part in the maps, 30% effect Berserk Helm will help our map clear speed. It will also help our burst with Vault Lightning Strike. So it's a very, very important piece of gear to have. Once you get the gear, you can craft it with essences, you can craft it with harvest or whatever. And lastly, we have something pretty important, which is upgrade jewelry. Jewelry is a huge source of damage. You can get a lot of flat elemental damage on it. You can get elemental damage from attacks. So very, very important piece for damage. So make sure jewelry is something you prioritize early on. And that's pretty much it for the first part of this Lightning Strike Berserker guy. This guy should pretty much be able to take you all the way through like almost every single part of the game, right? Of the campaign. It teaches you how to play the build. It teaches you how to swap the Helix for the first few maps until you get enough currency to swap over to Lightning Strike. It teaches you what items you need to use. So I pretty much held your hand through the whole campaign. I figured out the leveling process for you. So please, please just listen to what I say and you'll have a great time. I did do this leveling process on stream. I think the whole run was under 4 hours or so with all skill points done and Act 10 Katava done. And it's a pretty seamless transition. I do think that this is the best way to level, and you can practice it a few times, and I guarantee you will like it a lot better than if you had not practiced. So next part in the guide, we will be doing what to craft for gear and what you want to look for gear, and we'll have the shopping cart ready to go. I actually don't really like reviewing the shopping cart because some of you guys just have no creativity. So if you put an item in with a certain role or mod or number on the mod, everyone just takes that number and never changes it. So that's how stuff gets super, super overpriced. But thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you find more mirrors, exalts, Red Blade banners than me. And if you like, please sure to leave a comment and be sure to like and subscribe. And yeah, next part in the guide is going to be the shopping cart and what items to focus for. But thanks for watching and see you next time. Bye.